Alright, so plan for today, gonna go over this airplane, some of its characteristics, how I fly it. This airplane's 56 years old.
And me, you know, I'm 56 years old. Damn!
This is no rudder. And I mean, the nose just swings. But if you add in some rudder with your roll, I'm trying not to bore you today.
Give us our distance here, then use Pythagorean formula like a nerd.
Next thing I shall do, we'll do some slow flight and stalls. Alright. I'm going to point south here. We'll do some slow flight. I'll show you some of the speeds I'm getting in each configuration. Looks like we're at 30 minutes, so I'm going to switch back to the left tank. Start the timer again. Knock out a couple clearing turns here. Alright, sweet, we're good. Alright, we'll start slow flight clean. So, get the carpet on. Start slowing up. I'm going to pitch for about 60 knots, and then slowly bring it back until the stall horn comes on, and then stabilize a little above that, whatever that speed may come out to be. There's 60 knots, there's no buffet or anything. Nope, there's a little buffet there. So that's one form of a stall warning. Yep, you can feel that buffet. That's just the turbulent air slapping the top of the wings. Holding level flight. Let's bring the speed back just a little bit, see when my actual stall warning horn comes on. Definitely more buffet. Approaching 55 knots. Still very controllable though. Okay, there's about 55 knots is where the stall warning horn comes on. Slow flight clean. Alright, let's introduce 1 notch flaps. Slowly. Immediately, you can feel that lift. Yeah, now I'm climbing about 100 feet a minute, so I'll bring the power back down. See, now I'm at 53 knots, no stall warning, level flight. And this is just 15 degrees of flaps. Okay, there's stall warning about 52 knots. Holding level flight, okay. Interesting, we'll go second notch of flaps, it's 25 degrees. Now we're at 51, no stall warning. We're still climbing a little bit too. There's 50, okay, 50, there's a stall warning. You can feel the buffet, okay. But it's super coordinated, super stable, it does not feel like it's gonna bite at all. Alright, let's go final notch of flaps, and look how much the nose lowered immediately. And I can bring the power back even more now. We're at 50 knots right now, no stall warning. A little bit of a buffet, but no stall warning. Okay, there's a stall warning about 48, 49. I don't want to ride the warning horn, so I'll bring it up to like 50. I'll start throwing in some light turns here. I'm going to keep it about 5 degrees, 10 degrees of bank, because I'm right on the edge of that stall right now. Super stable, super controlled in this configuration. You basically just use your rudders to steer around, don't use your ailerons. Alright, we'll bring it into a power off stall full flap, so we'll slowly bring the power back. See? I'm full back on the yoke right now and it's not even braking. It's just wallowing. This is falling leaf stall. And this is how well behaved this airplane is. Look at this, I'm just literally just sinking here. 45 knots, riding the stall horn. And the wing doesn't want to drop on you at all. You just use your rudders. Just use the rudders to keep it coordinated. Don't use your ailerons. But look how stable and solid it is. Even basically full back, almost full. Yeah, I'm full nose up trim. Literally just sinking. And I'm only descending at 600 feet a minute, so I'm basically a falling leaf at this point. That's why they call it a falling leaf stall. I have this yoke pinned back. I cannot move it more, and it's literally just wallowing like this, as happy as can be. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and recover, push nose down. So yeah, that's part of the side effect of it being such a nose-heavy airplane, is it is ridiculously stable in that configuration. Like, it doesn't want to drop a wing, it doesn't want to violently roll over on you, it just chills there. Such a well-behaved airplane, it's an absolute joy to fly. Don't be afraid of it. Like I was watching a video after we bought it, but I didn't have the plane yet. And this dude was like saying, if you try and rotate before it wants to fly on its own, you're gonna die. If you try and climb with flaps, you're gonna die. And it's like, no, that's not the case. It has its characteristics that are different from other airplanes, but at the end of the day, it flies like an airplane, and it's a very well-behaved airplane. So don't overthink it. Okay, let's do a power on stall. Let's slow up, get our carpet on. Okay, there's a rotation speed. Start adding full power. Start pitching up, carpet off. Keep it coordinated. Like aggressive buffet, you can feel it, but when it brakes, it just slowly brakes and then lowers the nose, and then since you're already at full power, you just lower the nose and it's already recovered by the time the nose is level. So super, super docile, super forgiving stall characteristics. What else could I cover about my airplane? Yeah, so the rudder, back to the rudder, you gotta use it, but it's light, so it's easy to use. And then let's talk about Dutch roll. Let's see if it has any Dutch roll. I haven't done any proper tests of it. So I'll wiggle with the rudder. Yeah, it rolls a little bit. But like, it stays pretty flat when you do use the rudder. I'll do that again. Try and film it. Keep my hands off the yoke. I'll try and keep the attitude indicator in the box so you can see how much I'm rolling when I do have the rudder. So let's add a little more power. Okay. So yeah, it rolls a bit. Yeah. So a little bit of Dutch roll. But not until you get further into the rudder, like off the top end. Yeah, it's really interesting, like when you start it, it'll roll, but when you go back to correct, it won't roll it nearly as aggressively. So we'll start with a right, rolls right a bit, add some left rudder. Yeah, it does roll left. But towards the end of that rudder, the pressure on the rudder increases exponentially, but the effectiveness, it doesn't do anything extra for you. It's interesting. So most of your effective rudder can be used by you just like pivoting your feet rather than sliding them. Like you just use your toes on the rudder and you could do a nice slip. Pretty good slip. That's probably 2/3 of the rudder input. If we go full rudder, it doesn't do much more. See? And recover. One thing I did notice right away when I got in this from the Cessna for the first time is the sight picture is significantly different. So the cowling is very sloped down compared to the 172, and it comes to more of a point at the end. So it plays with your mind a little bit if you're used to the sight picture in the Cessna. Once you're used to it in this, it's totally fine though. I'm trying to nitpick every little detail I can that I noticed with this thing. Oh yeah, the adverse yaw. It is so apparent, and they knew about it, that if you look at the aileron deflection, at full deflection, the aileron that raises, or the aileron that's killing lift versus the aileron that's generating lift, moves about almost twice as much as the descending aileron. It's got that much differential. And if you don't know how adverse yaw works, the lifting wing creates more drag. So if you go into a right turn, right aileron raises, left one lowers. That one's creating more lift, but since you're turning right and the left one's creating more lift, it's creating more drag and pulls the nose to the outside of the turn. That's what adverse yaw is. So to counter that, they added a bunch of differential. So the raised aileron raises more than the lowering one lowers. And then also one very, very interesting thing that I noticed when I was just moving the controls on the ground The rudder is tied into the ailerons on this to help keep you coordinated. Granted, it doesn't do anything until you're about the last 10% of the movement, but that last 10% in the ailerons, if you're not touching the rudder, it moves the rudder a few degrees. And it's honestly not that helpful because I don't think I've ever used full aileron deflection. And if you're in a stalled attitude or somewhere where if you're using full aileron deflection in this thing, something's not right. Because I'll do about half, and that's about the roll rate you're getting. There's no need to go more aggressive than that. But it doesn't really do anything in the mid-range. The rudder doesn't move with the ailerons at all. Only at the very end. And a lot of RC pilots do that. They electronically mix in their radio that. I call that cheating. I say just use your left stick and move the rudder, but whatever floats your boat. Let's test out its dynamic stability. So we will trim it out for level flight, and now I will upset it a little bit by pushing nose down, and we'll watch the cycle repeat. So as it speeds up, gaining more lift, it automatically wants to pitch up on its own. I'm doing nothing here. My feet are off the rudder pedals. I'm just along for the ride. As it pitches up, slows down, nose starts to lower. I'll level the wings a little bit. Other than that, I'm not touching it. Alright, we're descending, picking up speed, it's pitching up again. And now each oscillation is going to be less and less. The last time it pitched up to about a 500 foot per minute climb before it started decreasing. Now it pitched up to about a 300 foot per minute climb before it started lowering the nose. Now we'll keep doing that again. And in a perfect atmosphere with a perfect airplane under perfect conditions, if you had it perfectly trimmed out, dead level neutral, it will return to that. It'll take quite a few oscillations that get infinitesimally small, but it will. Let's test it on the roll. Let's see if it'll automatically want to roll back to level. So, I'm level, trimmed out level here. Let's give it 15 degrees of bank and see what happens. Okay, looks like now it's at 20 degrees of bank, so it's over banking. So what's happening here is, because we're in a turn, we're descending, the outside wing's actually going faster. See, now we're at 30 degrees of bank. See, but now as it speeds up, I can feel the G's. There's 30 degrees of bank. Yeah, and it's just gonna continue to tighten that spiral, so I'm gonna exit now. What's happening is, you get in the bank, you start turning, your outside wing's actually going faster than your inside wing. So it's generating more lift, and it's gonna wanna keep that roll coming. Now, with enough dihedral and a lot of other factors, a lot of airplanes will actually return to level flight on their own, but this is just not one of those airplanes in that specific configuration. And that was to the left, so we had our left turning tendencies from the engine working against us. Let's do it to the right where we have the left turning tendencies working for us. So, level flight here. One more traffic check. We'll give her 15 degrees of bank. And let go. And yeah, it does the same thing. Nose decreases because there's less vertical component of lift. Now we're at 20 degrees of bank. Now we're gaining speed because we're descending, gaining more lift. You can feel the G's coming. Yep, there's 30 degrees of bank, and yeah, it's just going to keep tightening and tightening. It's not going to recover on its own. So less dynamically stable in the roll axis. On pitch, very stable. How about yaw? Let's test that. Right, level flight, we'll give it a quick push of the rudder. Right, now hands off, and yeah, it wiggles a little bit, puts it into a slight turn. Yeah, it puts into that slight bank, but the rudder oscillations stop almost immediately. But now it is in a bank, so now our overbanking tendencies due to the faster wing are going to kick in. Now we're at 10 degrees of bank, 12, and it's going to do the same thing it did before, 15, 18, yeah, so it's going to do the same thing it did before. Right, Let's do that with the left rudder since we have our left turning tendencies from the engine working against us. Not that aggressive, but yeah, so it turns, puts it into a bank. The yaw oscillations cancel almost immediately. Like it moves, wiggles like once, and then it's good. And now we're in a bank, and the overbanking tendencies will kick in from here, just like they did when I tested the roll. Interesting. Let's see what happens with flaps. I kind of already did this, but if this test is better than the earlier test, I'll put this test in the video instead. Trimmed out level flight, 83 knots. First notch flaps. Keeps it level, but then the increase in lift takes over. Pitches up, start climbing, and now our dynamically stable pitch is going to kick in. We're going to pitch down, it's going to gain airspeed. Then it's going to start picking back up. Process is going to cycle again until it finds its equilibrium point, which is not going to be perfect level flight now because I have it trimmed for no flaps. So let's do our second notch. Not touching the controls except the flaps. We are within the white arc. That added nose down, but also added lift, but not as much as the first notch. So now we're remaining at level flight. Interesting. So yeah, dead level. That's very interesting. So trimmed for level flight without flaps is the same as trimmed for level flight with 2 notches of flaps, so 25 degrees. Let's see what our final notch does. Lowered the nose again, added a bit of lift. Looks like we're climbing about 100 feet a minute, but now the nose is actually lowering more because we have extra drag. Now we're losing lift. Now we're descending about 100 feet a minute. So if we add a little nose up trim, maybe we can get it to level out. Huh. But yeah, like in a Cessna, when you do that, you have to force the nose down, because otherwise, if you would give full power with flaps, you're going to put yourself into a stall immediately. Whereas, let's go full flaps here. Full flaps in a Cessna, if you were to go around, you have to force the nose down, otherwise it will automatically put you into a stall. Let's see, we're trimmed out pretty good. I'll trim a little nose up. Level out about our approach speed, about 65. We'll get a good descent going. Then I'm going to give it full power and see what the pitch does. Because in a Cessna, in order to not die, you have to force that nose down aggressively. It takes a lot of forward pressure. So we're stabilized, 300 foot, about 400 foot per minute descent, 65 knots. Get our carpet. We're going to go, let's simulate a go around. Full power. Carpet off, and look how lightly the nose raises, just because that slight extra lift. But now look, it raises to about level, then it stops, and it's climbing away about 300 feet per minute. In a Cessna, the nose would automatically just rip up, and you'd have to really fight it in order to stop it from stalling. I'm full power. Full flaps, haven't touched the trim, barely touched the yoke. This is not going to stall on a go-around on you. Let's do it with the standard configuration, which is 25 degrees flaps. So we'll get a nice descent coming. I'm going to turn this way a little bit. Okay, 65 to 70 knots, about 500 feet a minute. Carpet on, landing configuration. Normal landing, that's 2 notches of flaps. We'll simulate a go-around. We're going to go full power, carpet in. The nose raises. We'll see how far it'll keep raising. I haven't touched the yoke. Speed is decreasing, but as it decreases, the nose lowers. It will not put you into stall in this configuration. Now it's just going to oscillate till it finds its equilibrium point again. Alright, let's do that with 1 notch of flaps. Alright, so that's 1 notch of flaps. Our approach speed is going to be about 70. We'll get that 70 going, 500 feet per minute down. Still a little fast. Got our carb beat on. Okay, there's our 70. Let's simulate a go around. So we're gonna go full power. Carb beat off. Level, keep the wings level. How far will it pitch up? About that far. Now our dynamic stability is going to kick in. It's going to find its equilibrium point. So if you are stabilized on approach and you need to go around, it was not going to put you into a go around stall on its own. Which means you need to spend less time focusing on not stalling, and you can focus on all the other things you need to do while doing a go around, and it's a lot less stressful. Yeah, so it's stabilized here without touching the trim or anything at a 300 foot per minute climb. So, in perfect atmosphere, perfect everything, you could just, in a go around, you could give full power and it's going to automatically get you in a climb away from the ground. Good airplane.
Go back, Spaceport Tower, make sure you're at approach runway 2645 mile final.
Make sure to approach runway 2645 mile final, Musketeer 3638 Quebec. Forgot to turn the camera on for that initial call. Sorry guys. Alright, we're good. I'll do some touch and goes for you. Let's brief our soft field landing. Alright, so we're going to come in full flaps, airspeed 65 knots. Alright, we'll touch down as softly as possible. Now, if it were to a full stop, I'd do minimal braking, aerodynamic braking where all possible. Elevator back to protect the nose wheel, and then avoid stopping until on a hard surface. Now, we're not on an actual soft field, so that wouldn't be the case. In this scenario, I'm going to, once I get stabilized, instead of starting to slow down, I'm going to go into a soft field landing. That's flaps 15. So once I'm stabilized, go to flaps 15. Alright, keep the weight off the nose wheel. In this case, it'll probably be off the ground completely. We're going to go full power. Accelerate until it pops up on its own. Once it pops up, we'll lower the nose slightly to keep it in ground effect. Accelerate until we get to our climb out speed, which is, we'll just go VY, let's call it 75, and then climb out normally. Once we get to safe altitude, raise flaps. So, in order to keep that nose wheel from touching, once I touch down, I'm going to have to add probably 100 RPM of power, maybe 150. Then, once I'm stabilized, I'll bring it to 15 degrees of flaps. Then I'll go full power. Once it pops up, lower nose, do what we just said. Cool. Tower Musketeer 3638 Quebec is 5 mile final, runway 26.
Musketeer 3638 Quebec, Spaceport Tower, runway 26, clear touch and go.
Clear touch and go, runway 26, Musketeer 38 Quebec.
Musketeer 38 Quebec on departure, make right traffic.
Make right traffic on departure, Musketeer 38 Quebec. Alright, let's get our pre-landing checklist done. Carb heat, gas, undercarriage, can't check it. Mixture, power, seatbelts, doors good. Alright, we're set. We'll go 1 notch flaps. Stabilize around 70 knots. Second notch. Alright, about a mile final. We'll go full flaps, gonna have to add some power to counteract that drag. Got a little left crosswind to work with. Right on our glide path, right on our 65 knots. Right on center line. Looking good. So we'll slowly round out. Once we touch the mains, right there, add a blip of power. Keep the nose wheel up. Now we'll lower our flaps to 15. Keep that nose wheel up. Now we can go ahead and add our carb heat back in. Go to our full power. She's already up on her own. Lower it, keep it in ground effect. There we go. Accelerate, pass through 60 knots. There's 70. Now we can climb out. Nice. At safe altitude. And start slowly raising those flaps. Tower Musketeer 38 Quebec, request short approach and full stop if able.
Musketeer 38 Quebec, roger. Runway 26, cleared to land, short approach is approved.
Runway 26 to land and short approach approved. Musketeer 3 Quebec. Beautiful. So we'll do our short, or wow, words are hard. We will do our short field landing. RP almost to beam our touchdown point. Get our first notch flaps in right now. Or beam our point. Start turning inbound. I'm not going full idle yet because I don't know if I need it. Got about 70 knots still, looks good. Full flaps. Get that out the way. Gonna be a little high, just throw a little slip in it. Throw a little slip in it. Beautiful. Watch the speed. Speed looks good. Gonna have to hold the slip right down towards the end. Start straightening the slip out. Get idle.
All aircraft ready information Sierra current.
A little past our point, it's all good. Get on the brakes.
230
And I mean, I wasn't even braking full, and I'm
739
stopped within 1,000
runway
feet.
26, clear touch and go. Musketeer 3638 Quebec, contact ground.
Contact ground, 3 Quebec. Do our after check, our after landing, RP in, trim set, boost pump off, lights on, everything looks good. Spaceport ground, Musketeer 3638 Quebec is clear of runway 26 on Alpha 8. Need to taxi to the ramp.
Musketeer 3638 Quebec, spaceport ground, taxi the ramp via Alpha 7.
Alpha 7 to the ramp, Musketeer 38 Quebec. Cool, clear left, clear right. Well, that was kind of fun. Hopefully got a pretty good idea of what this airplane flies like, how it compares to some other airplanes. I did nerd out quite a lot. I apologize for that. May have taken out a couple of your brain cells, but if you have any brain cells left, maybe you're still here. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Guess I'll see you next time. Thanks for flying along with me. Don't run into the hangar. That's always helpful.